Hello and welcome to the Heat Check Podcast, Miami Herald's Miami Heat Podcast. I'm David Wilson. I'm joined, as always, on the other line. He's second in line to get a statue outside the Casella Center. It's Anthony Chang, our Heat beat writer here at the Herald. Anthony, what's going on?
What would my statue be? Would I just be at the laptop just typing? I don't know.
It's either like at the laptop or standing like with a recorder in like a scrum, right? It's one of the two.
Oh, yeah, it's good. It's a good one.
It's a little bit more action, I think, than
Yeah.
sitting
Either way,
slouched over.
it'll be a lot emptier than Dwyane Wade.
All right, we're gonna be relatively quick this week. Anthony just touched down in Toronto after a miserable travel day through the Northeast. I don't know if we have any listeners / watchers in the Northeast, but I think it's terrible everywhere up there.
Yeah.
I say someone with family up in that area. Obviously, 3-game winning streak going for the Heat. They play Toronto on Wednesday. Some historic stuff to get into, I guess, with Dwyane Wade and Udonis Haslem. The Wade statue, obviously, coming later this year, and the Haslem getting his jersey retired on Friday. First, let's just get the Wade stuff out of the way quickly. A legitimate shocker. Not surprising that it's happening, right? Like, if you had asked me, is Dwyane Wade going to have a statue out on Biscayne Boulevard one day, I would have said yes. But he was shocked. Eric Spoelstra said he was shocked. You were shocked. You excited? I was in the building that night for the first time this year, I think.
Yeah.
And you excitedly texted me. Just what's your kind of reaction? Like I said, not super surprising, but cool nonetheless.
Yeah, it was a really really cool moment to think, and I'm assuming Dwyane was surprised.
He looked surprised. He was like,
surprised. Yeah.
That was, I think, honestly, the coolest part was how, like, legitimately kind of like shocked
moment.
he seemed. Yeah.
Like, you don't really see that often, like, capture that type of moment with like the genuine reaction of somebody, and Pat Riley delivering the news like in front of the crowd, in front of everybody. Eric Spoelstra said he didn't even know. Some people knew. Obviously, some people had to know, right? On the business side of the team.
Yeah, they had a press release out right away.
Yeah, the press
release. They had a little video thing ready.
Right, but they kept it. I mean, for that not to leak out, it's pretty good, and I mean, it shouldn't be surprising considering how the Heat do things. They're pretty tight-lipped.
Yeah.
But just the moment and capturing Wade's genuine reaction, I think was the best part of it all. Like you said, I think it was expected. I just didn't expect it that night. Like, I was literally just like typing stuff from at halftime, writing my takeaways.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and I like looked up, and I was like, okay, this is actual news here.
Yeah, we actually have news. Yeah, it's not just
a story. So it was it's gonna be cool to see the statue. It's gonna be cool that it's there in front of the arena on Biscayne Boulevard. I'm assuming it's gonna be him on the scorer's table.
Yeah, we'll get into like we'll do a full statue talk once maybe we get like the specific date and all that kind of stuff.
I have heard they said the fall 2024.
Yep.
Heard it will be during the season.
We don't have the schedule yet, so that's I assume why they can't set a date, because they want to probably do it
around the game.
At a game. Yeah, maybe opening night,
or even the day before a game.
The day before a game, right?
Something like that. But it's gonna be built around sometime, whatever game early in the year.
Right. And I thought, Dwyane Wade, he talked obviously right after it. It seemed really like meaningful to him. He talked about growing up in Chicago and like seeing the Michael Jordan statue when he was young. Like, and the statue is actually going to be designed by the same architects who designed the MJ statue. So, like legitimately, like, getting your jersey up there is like, it's cool. I mean, that was obviously a big story. That was kind of like when he did his interview at halftime, what they talked about a little bit at the start. Like, when he got to Miami, there were no jerseys retired. Now they got 5 up there and 6 coming on Friday. But yeah, statue that is rarefied air, obviously.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine another Heat player, barring like Bam winning a bunch of championships. Hard to imagine another Heat player will have one.
I mean, the only other one is Udonis.
Udonis, we'll see.
Number is getting retired.
And there could be a Riley. There could be a Spo one day.
Yeah. I don't want to bring that. I shouldn't even bring.
We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, but I wonder if there's any possibility. I don't want to be a spoiler. I don't know anything. This is just like me thinking after the Dwyane Wade stuff happened. When they retire Udonis's jersey, if he's going to get a statue, and who knows if he will,
Yeah.
if that would be the time to tell him and they kind of unveil them together in the fall, that would be kind of cool. But we'll see. I don't know. That was just a thought that now I'm like my antennas are up.
Right. Yeah. We're on the lookout for anything.
Yeah.
We'll get into UD, I think, mostly next week after the jersey retirement. But obviously that'll be another fun night on Friday. The Heat know how to pack in some events into this like doldrums of the schedule. But at the same time, the Heat are playing good basketball. They've now gone 3 straight games holding their opponent under 100 points. Not great opponents. Obviously, Charlotte's one of the worst teams in the league. They blow them out on Sunday on Dwyane Wade night. Beat Brooklyn in overtime on Monday. Holding a team under 100 in overtime is pretty good. Of course, the Heat didn't crack 100 themselves.
I was going to say,
but,
right. That's the issue.
And the Magic, who were sliding, held them under 100 on Friday night. But still, probably a playoff team, Orlando. Heat's defense, as you pointed out, back into the top 5. I think we expected that to happen at some. Sorry, top 10.
Yeah.
Top 10. I think we expected that to happen. Top 5. I don't know if we're expecting them to be top 5, but top 10 we expected to happen at some point here. There's going to be nights where they give up 120, 130 even. Like that's the nature of the NBA these days. But do you think they've kind of figured it out defensively? Like, are they now? This is probably the best defensive stretch they've played all year. I don't want to say figured it out because I don't know, it's 3 games, but like, have they? What are you seeing? I guess from these last couple games here that again, this is the defense we kind of think they can be. What are you seeing over these last couple games that makes you think this is going to be sustainable for this team?
They're healthier. They have their best defenders available. I mean, for so long now, it's been Jimmy out,
right?
Caleb Martin missing chunks of games, Haywood Highsmith missing chunks of games. Now they're all available, and that makes a difference, and we're seeing it. And yes, like you said, it helps that you're playing Charlotte, Orlando, who are bottom 10 offenses, and then Brooklyn is an average offense, like around 15th, 16th in offensive rating, but again, not a great offense. So it's helped the level of opponent, but I also think you're seeing this team get healthier, and we're seeing the defense come around because of that, because personnel matters. When you have your best defenders available, your point of attack defense is going to be better. Your overall defense is going to be better. It's almost like now that they're getting healthier, we're kind of starting to see what we expected. The defense is now 9th, and the offense has fallen to like 19th. So, I mean, this is kind of what we thought it would be. You would hope the offense would be, around 15th, 14th at least. For this team to really be probably where it wants to be. But top 10 defense is a must. And for the last few weeks, they've been 14th, 13th, 15th in defense, and that was just not going to cut it. Yeah. So it's a good sign that they're back into the top 10, and, for them, hopefully they'll stay there.
Yeah, like you said, doing it against bad teams, but I think if I have my count right, they'd only held teams under 100 twice all year.
Yeah, right.
Before this 3-game stretch. Yeah. And they, we talked a lot early in the season about how, the schedule wasn't super tough. They were winning a lot of games, and I know 100 is kind of like an arbitrary number. They had games where they gave up 102 or 100, I think once or twice. But yeah, it's still doing what you're supposed to do against the bad teams in your schedule. We've said it a million times, is kind of the difference between this Heat team this year and what we saw from them last year, where it was a real slog through the whole regular season. But, they've got their identity still. And like you said, the offense has tailed off a little bit since they've kind of gotten healthy, which is obviously funny. I mean, it's just how they're going to play, though, right? Like, it's so much of that is the style, the pace to an extent. Like, I know a lot of those numbers are pace adjusted, but still, when you play fast, just there's higher variance and, more threes, all that kind of stuff. Like, teams that play faster typically rank higher offensively, not even when you adjust for tempo. But, the Heat are, we wanted, how many times have we said it this year? We want to see the Hero, Bam, Tyler, Hero, Bam, Jimmy, which we just hadn't seen a lot. Now we're seeing it, and they kind of look like you said, what we thought maybe they could look like. And importantly, they're winning games when they're playing the way that we thought they might look.
Yeah, I was about to mention one thing about the offense. It's hard to score a lot of points when you're taking the 17th most threes percentage of shots. Like, they just don't take that many threes. 3-point volume is down. They take a lot of mid-range shots. They don't take many shots around the rim. So if you make a lot of threes, even though sometimes they'll take 30 threes and they'll make as much as the other team because they're just shooting it efficiently. But if you don't shoot it efficiently, your margin of error is low. Those nights you're not going to score that much. So you need a defense to be good, and that's kind of what's happened. And they're going to rely on their defense. We know that about it. When this team is healthy, they're going to lean on their defense to win games. So I think that's what we've seen. But yeah, Bam, Tyler, Jimmy, that Brooklyn game was the 9th time they've played together all year.
And
the
2 of those
game
times,
they finished. Yeah. So hopefully now for them, they could have a little bit of a sustained stretch where those 3 guys can play together, figure out some things in the clutch, right? In those late game moments. It looked good in Brooklyn. Tyler and Jimmy combined for 60 points, which you can't ask for much more than that. Both were efficient. Some at points they were playing off of each other. Other times they were just, he were just dialing up different possessions for one time for Jimmy, another time for Tyler. So it looked good, but we've seen it throughout the season. There are kinks to be worked out. Like a lot of times when they play together, Jimmy's usage has been way down. He's not involved. But Brooklyn was probably maybe the best they've looked together all year. Those 3, and it was Jimmy's first game back. So we'll see if they can build on that, in Toronto and moving forward.
Yeah, you mentioned 17th in 3-point attempts. Right now, they're still 5th in 3-point percentage, though, and that's like
that's what carrying them. Yeah,
that's like I don't worry about if they're gonna shoot that percentage. I don't worry about the offense because they can kind of turn it up when they need to, right? Like when you shoot a higher volume, your percentage probably going to go down. That's just like the way math tends to work. But they've got the shooters. Last night they're down 16 points early in the 3rd quarter, and obviously a lot of the comeback is their defense, but they can score in bunches because of how efficiently they shoot threes. I don't see any reason why this team won't continue to shoot threes pretty much as efficiently as they are this year. It doesn't feel like they're leaning on, it's not like the one year when PJ Tucker shot like 50% from 3, right? Like it's Duncan Robinson is shooting well. And
Tyler Hero
shooting well. Like the guys, part of the reason their 3-point numbers are low is like the bad 3-point shooters don't shoot a lot of threes.
Yeah.
So I think this is what you want to see from them right now. I think you want to see them, identity is such an important part of basketball at large, but playoff basketball in particular. It's why we've wanted to see these guys together all along. I think if they can really lock in on this defense first identity, while knowing that the offense, I still kind of trust a lot of what they can do because of Jimmy in close games, right? Because Tyler Hero in close games, he made some monster shots in overtime on Monday, and because of 3-point shooting, like that's just going to be like if you're down by 15 points. Last year the Heat were kind of toast when that happened. This year, they're shooting well enough that they can make up. But they were down 16, and how quickly was that lead gone? It was like 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they started making threes. They were
exactly. Yeah.
They were like 0 of 13 in the first half from 3, and then they made like 3 threes in a matter of 3 minutes. And Brooklyn shot. I think the Brooklyn shot 10 of 55 from 3. It's just insane. Talk about volume. 10 of 55 from 3. They actually ended up shooting worse than the Heat did, even though the Heat shot 0 of 13, didn't make a 3 in the first half. So, the Heat started making a few more shots, and the Heat defense kept, they played well throughout, and that was the difference. And I think that's the Heat. I mean, that's been the Heat's formula for a couple of years, where you just keep the game close, even if your offense isn't great. You keep the game close, with the defense, and you have closers on this team. Jimmy, Tyler, like those are 2 of the best clutch players in the league. So they have confidence that they can win a lot of close games, which they did last year. That was their biggest strength, was like just keeping it close and winning down the stretch behind Jimmy or Tyler or Bam, and that was the formula in Brooklyn.
Yeah, that was what you really saw. It felt a little bit like the good Heat from like Duncan, 0 points. The bench did nothing pretty much last night, except Caleb, who was kind of like his typical Caleb self. Didn't score a ton, but big minutes, defense, all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, the bench didn't do anything, but their defense kept it close. like we said, they hit enough shots, and then the closers down the street. Even Bam was like not great last night. So although he did have 20 rebounds.
Brooklyn, by the way, we talk about that real quick. Brooklyn doubled him more than any other team in his career. They were sending doubles at him whenever he had the ball in the post and ISOs, hard doubles. And you could see it had an effect on the offense. It had an effect on Bam. I think season low 11 points for
I'd have to imagine it had an effect on Duncan as well.
Yeah.
Like when you double Bam like that, you take Duncan out of what he does best. But yeah, this is when we talk about Tyler Hero as an X factor for this team. That's kind of the reason why, right? Because Bam is this, he's the second best player in this team, but you can kind of take him out offensively in a way that you can't with a Jimmy or a Tyler or a guard or a wing or the Embiids and Jokic, like that level of center. So Hero was kind of the MVP last night, I thought.
Yeah, Hero and Jimmy, those two.
Yeah,
they made big play after big play.
60 of 96 points in an overtime game. So it's
that was 90s basketball. I mean,
it was
88-88 after 4 quarters. I mean, it was. I think it was the first. I looked it up last night. The first game in the NBA this season that neither team broke 90 points in regulation. Which is not hard to believe. I mean, I should have even looked last season. Probably last season never happened.
Yeah, when's the last time that happened? Like
in general, right? Like maybe 1998. Like I don't know.
Like the 2006 finals or something.
Yeah, there you go. It was a weird game, but Spo loves that type of stuff. He loves winning in the mud, as he says. He loves grinding out wins. He loves finding different ways to win. He always talks about the regular season, how it's important to find different ways to win, and that's a skill. And that's kind of what this team has done all season. Like sometimes it's the threes. Now lately it's been the defense.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the depth. Sometimes it's the main guys. Like, and that is, that works in Heat's favor in the long run, like in the playoffs, where they have so many different ways they could beat you. And even when a guy goes out, like they'll find a different, like they'll change their style.
Jaime obviously dealing with an injury, and you can't you missed him obviously because you only scored 96 points, but like. It didn't feel like weird. Like you didn't feel like you were playing anyone who was like not capable, right? Like everyone on the floor feels like an NBA player. And Jovic, I mean, maybe we could talk a little bit of Nikola Jovic before we wrap up because we talked a little bit about him last week, but and he didn't do, he wasn't incredible last night, but plus 17 in his minutes is pretty good. And he's just become a really viable. He started last night. He's started a lot lately. But a really viable, like, he's basically the 9th man, essentially, right? Like, when everyone's healthy. I mean, probably not even in the rotation necessarily when everyone's healthy, but he's become really viable, and that is just another wrinkle, I think, for this Heat team that already we felt like had good depth, just to get one more piece there, and a guy who's, like, really rapidly improving, finally.
Yeah, the interesting thing was he started last night.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was starting against Brooklyn with Jimmy back. I mean, it was the Lowry, Tyler, Jimmy, Bam, like the 4 usual starters. I thought maybe Haywood would plug back in because he kind of works with that group. He left Nico to start. Will he be the long-term starting power forward on this team? I'm not saying that. I guess we'll see. But it is interesting that they at least gave him a chance, right? And yeah, he didn't play great, but his minutes were positive mostly because he was playing with the team's best players. But still, the minutes were positive. And honestly, like Nico's minutes with Bam during this stretch have been really, really good.
Yeah.
Before last night, the Heat were outscoring teams by 13.1 points per 100 possessions in 153 minutes that Adebayo and Nico play together. So that front court, as Eric Spoelstra said, I think last week, it's dynamic. Just with their two skills, skills kind of complementing each other.
He's shooting really well from three, not on high volume, but shooting very well from three, which obviously is always that's been what you're looking for to play next to Bam, and that's a really skilled front court. I mean, Jovic is every game multiple assists, and some nights where it's 4, 5, 6. It's one of the more interesting front courts in I can't think of another tandem like that around the league. Like honestly, Jovic and somebody reminds me a little like Kyle Anderson, I guess, kind of. But Kyle Anderson was always more of like a true wing, whereas Jovic is kind of like feels like a real stretch four, but with some passing ability.
Yeah, that's what he does best right now, is passing and pushing
Yeah.
the pace. Like that's
Yes.
another thing he brings.
Well,
like
and
the team plays
when
slow.
Bam is a good dribbler, also like you got five
Yeah.
guys who bring the ball up all the time now.
Get a rebound and just bring it up, like just
Yeah.
push it. The thing is his defense. When they play better teams, they play Boston, they play Milwaukee. Can he hold up on defense for 20 minutes? That I don't know, and that's what we'll have to see over the course of the season. I still think Haywood Highsmith is the long-term starter at that spot. I just think he fits for the identity of this team. He's a good enough shooter to make defenses respect him from the three-point line. I just think he's a more viable player at this point of his career. But I think I kind of like what Spo's doing, just kind of seeing what Nico can give them in that lineup, just to know, because how else are you going to know, right?
Right. I mean, if he was killing him, he'd play 10 minutes, right? He'd get his run at the beginning and be out. But
right. And look, he didn't play in the fourth quarter. He didn't play in overtime.
Yeah.
And that's not a surprise. That's just kind of like, it's almost like he's a placeholder starter. Not to discredit Nico, but we've seen Eric Spoelstra do that in the past. He starts somebody, doesn't play much beyond those minutes where they start the first half and the second half. He's going to play the guy, the guys he trusts most down the stretch. But again, we'll see. We'll see if Nico could maybe earn this role long term, or at least for the next few weeks. But that's one thing I'm definitely interested to see. Like tomorrow, even in Toronto, will he start again at power forward?
Yeah.
Because that is a little bit of a surprise.
All right. Anything else before we wrap things up?
No, I think we're good. I think we covered it.
All right.
I saw snow today in Atlanta, in New York.
Snow
in New York City in 700 plus days, and I was there.
Really? Wow, that's crazy.
Isn't that insane? I couldn't believe it. So it's the first time it snowed over an inch in 700.
Right. Yeah. Like it flurries.
Which again is surprising.
But yeah,
still surprising.
Are you as a Miamian, like, what are your thoughts on snow? Do you get excited when you see it? Are you annoyed when it? I mean, obviously today it annoyed you because you sat at, I don't know what airport you were at, but you sat at the airport all day. Just what are your snow takes?
I like seeing it from the inside. I take a lot of pictures from my hotel room in the window. Then I go outside and I don't like it that much.
Is it snowing in Toronto?
There's snow on the ground, but it's not snowing.
All right.
But it is 8 degrees. With a wind chill of like -7. So.
All right. Well, don't let your mustache freeze.
I'll try not to.
All right. You can follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Chang. You can follow me on Twitter at DBWilson2. We'll be back next week. We'll talk Udonis Haslem. And obviously whatever else happens in Heat World over the next couple of games is we'll see if they can keep this winning streak going. Schedule still pretty favorable for the next week, and then I guess next week when we record, we'll have to figure out when exactly we're going to record. But Boston,
Tuesday's a good one.
Boston game coming, Boston, New York coming at the end of next week. So some big ones for the East playoff race. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week.